Welcome to the Local Marketing Industry Weekly Update, brought to you by LocalMarketingSource.com. This update is taken from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers. The Local Marketing Weekly Update is for those interested in marketing their local business on the Internet. For free Internet access to education and training courses, visit LocalMarketingSource.com.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter at ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey everyone, Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, and we're bringing you our weekly industry update for Wednesday, November 21st. Well, next week's faculty call is going to be November 28th at 4 p.m. Eastern, and on today's faculty call we got something very exciting. We've got an LMS student with Local Marketing Source. He's been with Local Marketing Source now for almost 2 years, or a little over 2 years, I believe. Well, I'll just say 2 years. His name is Josh Nelson, and he comes from a full-time job and essentially got into this local marketing space. Well, the great thing about Josh is he's billing over $60,000 a month now in recurring revenue, and he's going to talk about a lot of different strategies on how he started out and some of the challenges he faced when he was starting out and how he started to build his agency and find some of these customers in a specific niche and really start to build it up to the business that he has now in Florida. Now, the LMS membership, for those that are listening right now, provides access to these faculty calls as well as live Q&A at the end of it. We also have access to our private Facebook members group, monthly webinars, access to the faculty members, and access to over 40 video pieces of video training material inside of our portal. Now, for this week, we also provide a weekly tip to local businesses and a weekly tip for a local internet marketing agency. Well, the weekly tip for local business is included in the weekly update. And for today's weekly update, the overview, we're going to be talking about a few different things. There was an update recently this week that a lot of SEOs were complaining about. Google has said, it's not a Panda update. It's not an EMD update. It's not a Penguin update. It's not this. It's not that. Well, we're going to uncover a little bit about that. Groupon, of how Groupon makes a bid to become the local search engine, as well as Google Maps and how they're making a step closer to work on the Apple iOS, that's the iPhone 5, and how Google introduces some new targeting measures to help more marketers get local. Nokia comes out with a Maps solution that absolutely blows. And this is the most intriguing one, is how patients of doctors that have online relationships tend to come and visit that doctor more often. In other words, the doctor makes more money. So this week's tip, well, first off, last week we talked about a review acquisition strategy and how important that review acquisition strategy is for a local business. And this week we're going to talk about a social media presence. Not a full social media strategy for a local business, but how a local business has a certain presence on there. And next week we're going to talk about some of those citation acquisition strategies, those unorthodox ways on how to get into some of these real citations that real businesses need. But for a social media presence, you see, we're a search marketing firm. We're not a social media firm. However, they're very closely related, and they need to be able to have a presence that's on there in different facets. As a bare minimum is what we're going to talk about today. And you've got Facebook, you've got Google+, you've got LinkedIn, and you've got Twitter. And each of those work in different particular ways. But a local business should have a fan page or a business page on all 4 of those social networks, period. They should also follow, number 2, they should also follow the best practices that we've talked about in each of those profile settings. So that's going to be items that we've talked about in the past, like the types of photos that you're putting out there and where you're getting your photos and how you should get them and tag them and all of this neat stuff. And descriptions and how to write a compelling description and have the call to actions in there and the appropriate information. Not keyword stuffing or anything of that nature. links or exposure. These profiles. You've got to be able to have exposure of your whole online presence on there. Products and services. Google Plus, for example, allows you to have a products and services page, and make sure you exploit that opportunity. And of course, all the different SEO optimization that goes along and is involved with that. So number 1, create a business page or a fan page for each of these 4 different areas. Number 2, follow the best practices on each of these. And number 3, engage with your audience. It's very, very important. You've got to add value. Just don't go and post something. Oh, so-and-so this or that. To be able to offer value. Like, for example, if you're a dentist and you're positioning yourself as a teeth whitening dentist as opposed to a crown type, there's going to be a variety of different information. You may read an article one day that this demonstrates that teeth whitening practices that you deploy in your practice are very safe. Or a chiropractor. A chiropractor may be going after back pain patients, or maybe a wellness type of chiropractor, or a healer. It's very, very different. These things are very critical. And understanding. So when you're creating information, make sure you're adding value to your audience. Salespeople, make sure you're using LinkedIn. LinkedIn, we have what we call all the top officers have to have profiles, and all the salespeople that are on there. And then finally, online reputation management. This is a very important aspect, and this is something I can talk about for an entire hour or two. As a matter of fact, we've got content on it inside our portal. That's almost 2 hours worth of discussion to talk about an online reputation management strategy. So there's some of your tips for the week. But the weekly overview, there was an update this week that a lot of people are complaining about. Google has confirmed it is not a Panda update. It is not a Penguin update. It's not an EMD update. EMD, if you don't know what this is EMD is exact match domain, keyword stuffing into your domain name, then that's been rid. And of course, the page layout algorithm that we've recently seen the updates for that optimize for conversion and whatnot. And Penguin and Panda, by the way, are spammy type of content and spammy type of link infrastructures that exist on the internet, respectively. So the most recent update had nothing to do with any of that. But Google's typical response is, we have over 500 updates a year. This is one of our updates. So that means 1 or 2 updates a day.
And next, Groupon makes a bid to be the local search engine. Well, this one's a little interesting because Groupon has really changed their business model over the years. And even going back a couple of years ago, I remember providing all these different type of arguments how Groupon's business model was just not a sustainable business model. It was not in the best interest of local businesses. Well, we're seeing evidence of that. And, you've got Groupon now that has come up, real-time deals and whatnot. But the thing is Groupon has come out and publicly said, we want to be the search engine for local deals. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. Google Maps, when the iPhone 5 came out recently, that was a big faux pas in the iPhone 5 was Google Maps. It was removed. And Apple's Maps, well, it just sucked. And Apple received a lot of criticism for this. Well, so be it. It is what it is. Now Google has now created an application that they hope and they anticipate is going to get approved by Apple and get to be available in the iTunes store. The big thing is that Google has taken a negative by being removed from the platform initially, and now they've launched this application. The positive for them is they can now feed their ads through their own application and in turn receive revenue where they couldn't in the past. Google is also introducing some new improvements for targeting local businesses, predominantly, let's say, local travelers. And I know that that's not local travelers, but travelers when they come to a local environment. And I know this firsthand. It's been very, very difficult. And so now Google is really expanding its geomods, especially with airports, and being able to create geocircumferences around certain areas for types of businesses that you're looking for. Some of the things to be able to accomplish this are tagging your information, i.e. using the rich snippets or the H-review markup, the menu markup for restaurants, and there's a whole variety of different rich text markup that you can HTML that you can add to a website. location extensions, getting different site extensions that are involved, and essentially following some of the best practices that we talk about in the profiles, as well as websites, are going to get these additional listings and additional exposure on the local fronts for your businesses. Another local maps player has come into the environment, a company called Navtech. They're actually rated, the second or the third top mapping company in the world, and Nokia has partnered with them. Well, this application is now available on the Apple iPhone, and it's even worse than Apple's mapping program. So Nokia has really dropped the ball there. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was patients of doctors. There's a study that's come out, and this comes from NPR website, that's National Public Radio, a very unbiased source of information. And a study that was released is that patients that have online relationships with doctors tend to go and visit that doctor more often. So what's interesting, does this apply for other industries, say a plumber? Well, I can think of it myself, that, I've got my own plumbing issues at home. Stuff that I don't like to deal with. Duct tape works very, very well, and I've got it fixed. But if I had a personal relationship with a plumber and know that the fix that I'm talking about is only going to cost me $50 or $75 as opposed to $300, I might be more likely to contact that plumber. Chiropractors, dentists. So there's just a whole variety of different industries that these professional services can build relationships with their clients, their prospects, their patients, their customers, whatever we want to call them. And ultimately, we know that there's 3 ways to grow a business. And number 1 is to get more customers. Well, that's what search does. But at the same time, the internet also helps you increase your customer spend frequency and increase your customer transaction amount. And with those 3 ways is how you particularly grow a business and ultimately turn around and leverage that. Well, this is going to be the conclusion of this week's update. We're now going to move and open the floor to LMS faculty students, and this is going to be our call. But first, before we get into our weekly tip and information, I would like to introduce Josh Nelson. If you could just give me a moment here, I'm going to go ahead and bring Josh on the line.